What's up? What's up? It's the MMA WTBS Tap Hour, and we got Ben and we got Roland. The three of us here. Ron is on daddy duty. Congrats,
Hello.
Ron. We wanted to give you a congrats from all of us. We're all happy. Hopefully, we can meet Roman James Echavarria pretty soon.
Yeah, happy to be here. Big UFC fight this weekend. We got three of the four here. Congrats to Ron again. He's going to be out on paternity leave for some time, still undecided. But happy to be here for a big fight. Got to kick it to Roland here. Big Max Express, West Express.
First and foremost, big congrats to Ron and his lovely wife Alyssa on their welcoming a newborn into the world. So congratulations to them both. Addition to their family, very exciting. But also exciting is UFC 308. It's in Abu Dhabi, like Ben just alluded to right now. I honestly started tearing up this morning. I'm not going to tell you exactly what I was watching that it had to do with Max Holloway or what I was listening to, but I was just tearing up thinking about the moment, thinking about, everything that, kind of Max has endured as a fighter, through his career, the ups and downs. This is going to be his chance at, taking the belt back at it's official third try at the belt because, he tried the first time, won, then he lost it against Volkanovski, and then so he's got another shot. He rebuilt himself after those losses to Volkanovski, ready to go up and fight the scariest man in the division right now, Ilia Topuria. So very exciting fight. I'm ready to break it down. I'm already getting nervous. I'm probably going to be even more nervous by the time we get to Saturday afternoon. But I'm excited to break it down with you guys. I know we're going to have some differing opinions here. Might have to bring me down to earth a little bit, but scratch that. There's no bringing me down to earth. You guys already know where I side. So it's just going to be a matter of me, planting my flag and telling you why,
there you go. I like that one.
Be standing. So let's get to it though. I'm excited.
I like the way you frame that. Plant the flag. Let's get into it. We'll go into the curtain jerker for the main card. And I want to remind everybody, we're going to do something else. I want to remind everybody this fight, if you are in Central Time, will start at 9 a.m. The prelims. If you're on the East Coast, it's an 8 a.m. start time. West Coast, 7 a.m. start time. They are in Abu Dhabi, so be prepared when you're watching college football to have a second TV because we're going to see UFC and college football at the same time. A little since we've been gone, we had a pay-per-view card, UFC 307, Pereira and Roundtree. Pereira retains with the round 4 TKO over Roundtree. Boys, what did you think of that fight? It's Chama once again coming up big in title fights, cementing his legacy as one of the middleweight goats, or light heavyweight goats now.
What did you think about the fight, Ben?
Yeah, I thought it was a hell of a fight. I don't think that there was any losers that night in that main event. I mean, I know Dana compensated Khalil Roundtree under the table a little extra after giving them fight of the night. It was a hell of a performance. I mean, we saw Pereira get dropped. He showed off his chin. It was a battle. Khalil looked good, but, Chama just broke him down little by little, and eventually it was too much. I mean, he broke him down ugly, bro. Those leg kicks, they had to be very quick because I believe it was southpaw versus southpaw. So it was a little unorthodox, to his normal leg kicks, but he got it done. 4th round TKO, and a hell of a fight. I mean, Khalil Roundtree, some people were bashing, this is the 8th ranked guy, fighting the number 1. He was a hell of a dance partner. He fit the role, and I think that he gained a lot of fans that night.
He showed rankings are stupid. Roland, what do you think about that 8th ranking? That's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. He's had some turmoil in his career. He did get popped for PEDs. I want to say that's why his last fight may have gotten canceled, or I don't know what happened there, but I know he was coming off of that. That was part of the dismay with him getting the initial call out for the title fight to begin with. But he was completely game. Ben alluded to the stance that was giving Pereira problems early on in the fight, which led to him getting dropped. He was quick. He was powerful early on, but also, as Ben was alluding to, Pereira just kept on chopping down, started whittling down on him. And I mean, if you're going to get into a striking match with Alex Pereira over the course of 5 rounds, he's going to get his, and he got more than that and some. He retained. He's carried the UFC on his back this year. Props to him for staying active and, keep racking up the dubs. And I'm excited to see what's next for him.
Biggest star in the UFC, right? Is that even debatable at this point?
right now, right here today, for sure, I would say he's the biggest star in the UFC.
Till
All right.
John Jones fights next month, and then
True. We'll see what happens there. And new Juliana Pena defeats Rocky Pennington by decision. Roland, that's on the same card. Unfortunately, we had to go through that before we were rewarded with the Alex Bejeda fight. What did you make of the fight? Did you think Juliana did enough to win?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at it, but I also wouldn't be mad if Ben were to follow up what I'm saying with him saying that he thinks that Rocky should have won. Because I also I could have seen it because she was I had the more exciting moment. She had the only knockdown of the fight. She almost could have gotten her lights out herself through a submission that Juliana Pena almost pulled out too. But it was a good fight. Not the most exciting, but high level women's fight, and Juliana Pena's the champ. I'm sure Dana was happy to see that and put the belt around her waist because she's funny on the mic. I mean, people were waiting for her to maybe call out Kayla Harrison, but she immediately went out to the Amanda Nunez call out, and I thought that was hilarious. But she's a showman, she's a true showman or a showwoman, whatever you want to call it. Good on the mic, and it's probably good for the division that she's a champ, but not mad at the decision.
Ben, what about you? Did you like that fight at all?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I will come in on the other side. Roland called it, maybe a little biased because I might have had a Rocky ticket, but I don't think anybody should have won that fight. I mean, like,
could have been a draw in my eyes.
It could have been a draw. It really could have been a draw.
She 100% didn't do enough to take the belt away from the champ. We always say, like, you got to beat the champ to be the champ, and that was not a case of that. It was bad product, but yeah, Raquel Pennington as your champ gives you nothing if you're the UFC. So, I mean, promotional wise, this was a great move because it sets up, like, fellow UFC historian Yosh in the comments is saying Pena versus Harrison. The buildup for that one should be pretty good, and Harrison's going to bring more than half of the eyes, although Pena will be the A side.
Then you could probably get Harrison winning that fight, and then there's the fight with Nunez, which would be a big-time fight at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a path for these ladies at least. And last weekend, we had Francis Ngannou, the Predator, with his PFL debut. We've been waiting 2 years to see him back in an octagon inside a cage. Pretty successful debut. He handed Renan Ferreira pretty easy. But what's next for him now? Because it's not like there's a lot of heavyweights in PFL just waiting to fight now. We don't even know who's the next contender at this point. What'd y'all make of that?
Yeah, wrestling Ngannou. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't get to watch the fight live. I saw the highlights. I was over in Austin at the F1, and the reception just was horrible. And I was more into college football, but there's not much. Honestly, the thing that they can push for the most is possibly getting one of those cross promotional like heavyweight fights. That's about all that's left. I see another long layoff for Ngannou here because, like, what besides, possibly them pushing Dana to saying we have the baddest heavyweight and John Jones ends up beating Stipe, and maybe they make it happen, but Dana's not going to throw a bone to the PFL like that.
He's not.
No. They'd allow it, but that's the move that I think the PFL is going to take. I think you saw John Jones even commenting on Ngannou's performance over the weekend, tweeting about it. Had some pretty kind words for, I wouldn't say bad blood, but differences that they've had because their fight never came to fruition. But yeah, I don't know what you do with Ngannou. I think there's another long layoff for him.
Roland, what says you? A long layoff, or do you think there's something maybe boxing again, something they can co-promote with another company? What do they do with Ngannou?
I agree with Ben in the general sense that the road for, or I guess the path after this fight for Ngannou is a little murky. And not murky because he won't have a lot of options. I think with a guy like Ngannou, he's going to have options. Now, whether or not it's something that's worth taking, like fighting a guy that nobody knows in the PFL, probably not going to want to do that. Not sure boxing's going to work out because that's probably where the payday is going to be on the boxing side. But I think we've already been there, done that with Ngannou. Even though he did have some success, I will give him his props there. And just overall, I got to give him props for, the PFL fight. I too did not see it live. I saw the highlight, but for the way that a lot of pundits were building up Perea or Ferea. I probably butchering that in the buildup.
Close enough, right?
It was, they were making it seem like he was no slouch and that this was a legit victory. I mean, he was only, and I say only because I mean we're talking about PFL. What, he was minus 250. So if we're talking about overall comp in the PFL, he's probably minus 1,000 against most guys. So for him to go up against a guy that's minus 250, legit opponent, just had put out Ryan Bader. Got to give him his props. We know what he's gone through on the family side with the son passing, and to be able to get through all of that, overcome the Anthony Joshua knockout, get his head right and come in and dominate like the true champion that he is. And to me, for my money, I still think he's the baddest man on the planet. But we'll see, if he ever does line it up with John Jones, which I don't think that'll ever happen. But heavyweights, I mean, come on, man, it's Ngannou.
Fair. I agree with everything you said. And I think the only chance it happens if it's under the UFC banner and he's not connected to PFL. Let's get into the main card here. And we're going to open with the curtain jerker. And it's Shara Magomedov versus Armen Petrosyan. Ben, you want to go over the tell of the tape here a little bit here?
It's a little too small for me, partner. I'm not going to lie to you.
All right, similar age, 30 versus 33, height 6'2 versus 6'3. The reach advantage, 2-inch reach advantage for Shara Magomedov. He's 14-0 in the UFC. He doesn't have a lot of issues with these fighters. So far, he hasn't been presented any issue, and he is favored that way at minus 155, Roland. Let's get into his last 5 real fast to see what kind of form he's been in. 3 UFC fights, and he has one banger, Michael Oleksiejczuk. That guy does have good hands. He is a knockout artist himself, and he was able to get a decision over him, and that guy's very tough. I know Ben was on Michael at that time because of how good his hands were, but him to edge out a decision, Ben, what are you making of these of his form?
We also got to mention Shara has one eye only. He only has
one eye, that's correct. And that's probably why he only fights in Dubai, because he's not getting a license in the U.S.
Yeah, he's on that Michael Bisping ship, before they got really serious. I was, going back to that previous slide, the line on him, I mean, he's been he's been, favored in most of his fights. Here, you only got him at minus 155. That's not a bad line. I know that, his opponent is going to be a little more well-rounded. We've seen Shara be more of a stand-up guy, a lot of kicks, punches. He's looked good. I mean, he's taking care of business. Like you said, I was on Olowokandi is what I call him. That name is insane.
It's super hard.
But yeah, that one was a decision win. It was, I mean, there was no doubt that he did win the fight. Fight in his backyard in Abu Dhabi, and then you've got Petrosyan. I forget exactly where Petrosyan is from.
Armenia.
Armenia, okay.
I think, yeah.
I think so, Roland.
So you see here, 2 losses in his last 5 fights. I just feel like the line is a little low. I think that Armin's going to want to take him down. I believe that he will get takedowns at several. I'm not even limiting him to one. I think that he's going to have a little bit of success, but I don't know about holding down Shara. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep him down. I can see Shara, crawling towards the fence, getting up pretty quickly. But I do think that Petrosyan's path is going to be, grinding it out, putting him up against the fence, closing the distance, and not letting Shara tee off on him. I think that's going to go on for so long. I see Shara, coming on a little bit, not later, but taking over the fight, in the second round and on, after Petrosyan's kind of tired of wrestling, just the way I see it going. But at minus 155, dude, I like that line. It's pretty low.
What about you, Roland? You like the line at 155?
Yeah, I was gonna say, when it comes to MMA betting, I love these kind of lines at the minus 150. My cutoff on taking a guy like straight like that without it having to be in a parlay piece in MMA is, if I really, really like it, I will take like a minus 200, but really don't go above that. So this minus 155 is, right in my ballpark. I will say this line, it was similar for the Michael Oleksiejczuk fight or Oleksiejczuk fight. And that fight, I will say it was a decision, but I don't think it was a walk in the park. Shara was challenged here a little bit. Michael is a guy that likes to go forward. He likes to get in the trenches. He likes to, kind of take away what Shara does and spam you with the kicks, keep you at distance. He's a Muay Thai guy by background. So he's going to want to spam the kicks. He is one of the best. That's what he's known for, at least in this point in his career.
Yeah.
But he wasn't able to get that off as much or as comfortably in this fight, although he did have his moments, ended up winning. So not going to take anything away from him there. But I'm going to say that to contrast going to the next guy in Petrosian. He's also a Muay Thai guy in his background. I was reading, leading up to this podcast, he's also a Muay Thai champion. He's a guy that likes to fight at distance, striking. His decision win against Christian Leroy Duncan. That was a fight that took place on the feet. Now, I might agree with Ben. I think that his path to this victory for him is taking him to the ground. I just don't know if he's going to want to, if he has that in his bag necessarily to take him down to the ground and be effective there. I think he's also more comfortable on his feet. He's playing at distance. And that's why I'm saying to contrast with Michael, I think this is going to set up even easier for Shara. I think this is a better matchup for him than the last fight. And that's why I agree with Ben. I'm going to take Shara straight, and I might have him in a parlay piece. So if he loses, I'm going to look like, an idiot. But right now, leading up to this fight, I think this plays into his strategy perfectly, going up against a fighter like this. And I think the UFC, there's no secret why they lined up this fight. They want to see two guys striking it out like this.
I think that's a perfect way to put it too, because you're going to get an early banger to start the card when you see this fight, when you turn on the main events or the main card for the pay-per-view. Let's move on. Y'all both are on Shara. Let's move on to the next one. Tell the tape. We got kind of a light heavyweight eliminator matchup with Magomed Ankalaev and Alexander Rakic, both similar in age, 32 years old, 6'3" versus 6'4", 75-inch reach for Ankalaev compared to Rakic's 78. Ankalaev's 19-1-1. He's had that one draw with Jan Blachowicz, and Rakic is 14-4. We're going to move into the last five. You're going to see a lot of W's, and you're going to see a draw and a no contest. Some fuzzy wuzzies, as they call it, between the draw and the no contest. Roland, I'll go to you first. Johnny Walker KO. What does that mean in today's light heavyweight fights?
Does not mean much, honestly. Exactly. But I'm looking at the UFC fight page, and they called that a perfect performance. You don't see a lot of those, and I don't necessarily know what goes into having a perfect performance, next to your fight. But it was a pretty clean performance from him, and in one of the more brutal knockouts too. I mean, Johnny Walker had already gotten knocked down, and with one of the nastier finishing punches, he just got put out nasty against the cage. I like Ankalaev in this fight. We can get into Rakic here in a little bit, but I think this is a good fight for Ankalaev. He's a guy that's on a mission right now. He wants that Pereira fight, and I think he's going to try and do something in this fight to, solidify that he should be the next guy to get that call.
We're going to look real quick at the Rockets. He's not in form. He's got losses to Yuri Prochazka, Blan Blachowicz, and Volkan Oezdemir. These are the main event players in the light heavyweight title picture, Yuri and Jan. So when you're losing to them, that's probably going to be a sign that you're going to lose to Ankalaev too, because he's a main event player as well. Ben, what do you make of his form with the last 5 fights he's been in?
I mean, I think that the strength of schedule is easily, you can say it's on Rakic's side. I get that you're saying Ankalaev is a main event player, but when your biggest fight is Johnny Walker, I mean, he did fight Jan, and it was a draw. I think Jan won that fight personally. Was taken into the deeper rounds and kind of tested. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan at that number either. These 3 losses here out of the last 5 are not good. I do like this to go a little bit further. I do like the over in this fight. Not willing to lay it with Ankalaev. I mean, he may come out and look like, a destroyer and just steamroll Rakic. Not willing, just with your best win being, Johnny Walker, best win being Johnny Walker. I'm not willing to go there just yet.
Part of me thinks that, like what you said, Roland, Ankalaev's going to have to show us some incredible stand-up to be getting that lottery ticket to fight Pereira next. So I think that's what he's going to showcase on Saturday is stand-up, so that, it'll entice Pereira to say, okay, if you're really willing to stand, we'll stand as well. I think that's the way to entice him as well.
Yeah, and with Alexander Rakic too, with his last 5, you kind of got to read a little bit into it. of that fight against Yuri. He was fighting. I think he was sick, so he was fighting on an antibiotic. He kind of drained out there in the second round after having a good first round. And then just generally speaking, again, I'm not the best MMA analyst or better or whatever, but I'm a sucker for guys that show extreme athleticism. And I think Rakic is he fits that mold. He's one of the better athletes in the UFC. So at any given time, he can hit you with something that you don't see, because he can hit you with a flying kick that you didn't see or that he hit or something like that. He has that explosiveness in his game. So, we're talking about Ankalaev trying to do something exciting. If he's not going to, take the easiest path to victory, which would probably be grinding a guy like this out, getting him tired on the ground, do you see Rakic with a puncher's chance, Justin, or is Ankalaev just going to steamroll him? Like, that's kind of how I see this here.
I'm going to be very biased here because, to believe it or not, Ankalaev is probably my favorite light heavyweight fighter.
Okay.
So I think he can do everything. He's the complete package. He can wrestle. He can do the stand-up game. I just think he just had that unfortunate draw with Jan that really held him up. He goes to Johnny Walker, does the illegal knee. That holds him up another year, but he makes right. Like you said, knocking Johnny Walker out probably doesn't mean a lot, like you mentioned, because it seems like Johnny Walker can get knocked out by anybody at this point. But I think Magomed is just too complete, and I think he's going to be – the line is warranted. Minus 355, I think it could be higher, to be honest. Yeah. I'm that high on Magomed Ankalaev, so he was one of the guys I had predicted, maybe – not this year, but the past year, that would end the year with the light heavyweight title. Unfortunately, it didn't go that way for him, but I'm not going to let go of that. I think that's still going to happen. I think that's still in his future at some point.
Yeah, and doesn't Rakic also have a torn ACL in his past? I want to say he blew out his knee also. Like,
dude, I think it's like ACL and MCL. I think when he blew it out.
Medic, and that happened like in the first round.
Yeah, so
they were the main event. He tore.
It like blew up, right? Remember that?
Yeah. So yeah, he's had a tough, build up, but if he wins here in exciting fashion, he too can see himself with his name called, because Pereira, he's shown that he's going to take all comers, right?
Yeah,
so
he's a dog.
It's a fresh face for sure.
So just to be clear, Roland, you are on Magomedov and Ankalaev, and Ben, you're on the over of this fight. That's what you like, not so much one or the other, but the over.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's move on. Let's get to the next one. And another banger, boys. Lerone Murphy versus Dan 50K Ige. 33 years of age. Both have been in the game for a while. We haven't seen a lot of Lerone Murphy. He hasn't been in the UFC as long. He's 5'9" over Ige's 5'7", and he's got a 73.5-inch reach. He's 14-0-1. And Ige, we last saw him, was it the Sphere or before the Sphere, where he just came up that night and fought Diego Lopez out of nowhere just to save the card. Do you remember that? That was his last fight, I believe.
It was before the Sphere, but
you're right before the Sphere. Let's get into Lerone Murphy's.
Wasn't that Ortega and Lopez scheduled at the Sphere, and Ige went in that fight, or am I wrong?
No, I think they fought there at the Sphere, Ortega and Lopez, but this was the week before, like the 2-3 weeks before, where 50K just came in because he was in Vegas and just fought him.
303.
There you go, 303.
Hey, Rawls in the comments saying, Ige, hey, I just hit you up on Twitter, fool, trying to go to that Spurs game Saturday. A little off topic, but hit me back up, Jeremy Raw.
All right, let's get it in, boys. Lerone the Miracle Murphy, completely in form, guys. 5 straight wins. We got decisions, split decisions, a knockout, and a unanimous decision. What are we making of Lerone's form?
It's as good as form as you can be in. It's clean, all green. Watched his last fight against Barboza. About as clean of a striking performance as you can have. Didn't let the explosive Barboza get off, although you can argue that he's in the twilight of his career. But looking at him, you really couldn't tell. But Murphy put on a perfect performance. I'm excited to see him fight. And like Justin alluded to, haven't really seen a lot of him because he hasn't fought in the States. I think he's fought in the UK when he has. So excited to see him here in a showcase spot.
I don't even remember him fighting on a main card for a pay-per-view yet. So that's another thing to look forward to. Ben, 50K's last 5. This is his form. Diego Lopez was his last fight. It was a loss. He knocked out Andre Fili, lost to Bryce Mitchell. and 2 other wins. What are we thinking of his form compared to what we've seen from Lerone Murphy?
Again, strength of schedule, bro. I mean, I'm not the biggest Ron Murphy fan. I think that he's a point fighter. He's from the UK as well, right?
UK.
Yeah, UK.
Yeah. I mean, like a cheap, like a bargain bazaar. If you're from the Valley, I'm being very specific, but like, like a Walmart brand Edwards. And that's if you even hold Edwards at those standards. I'm not a fan of Lerone Murphy. I'm with Raw on this one. He says Ige. We know Ige's a gamer. That fight against Diego Lopez went to decision. Not sure if it was split or unanimous, but he put up a fight to where you were like, okay, some of these rounds could go either way. So I like
that's on no training camp.
Yeah,
and that was on no training camp. TKO'd Feely. I don't think Feely is. I wouldn't even say a gatekeeper, but he's kind of that guy, like maybe, top 15, top 20 type guy. Lost to Bryce Mitchell in that decision. But I like Ige here at the odds, man, with a full camp, coming off of, I would think, was a very positive performance against Lopez for him. It's got to be very, building his confidence up. Diego Lopez is on championship trajectory. And maybe if he had a 5-round fight with Lopez that night, it goes differently. So he can always argue, hey, I didn't have my camp. He just got to win a couple of fights and get that one back. So I like Ige here at 2-1.
It's got to be the best dog play of the night, more than likely, was going to be with Ige plus 220, I think. Roland, are you even willing to take a shot at this high of a dog?
Honestly, I kind of disagree. I think the 2 dogs that we're going to talk about here at the end of the card might be a little bit better, but this is a tough fight for me to kind of judge. Like Ben said with Murphy, he's more of a striker, point fighter. But then on the other hand, Dan Ige, I give him his props on hours notice, not even a day. We're talking hours, 6-8 hours, shows up, answers the call. And, I was on Diego Lopez. I thought this was Diego Lopez is going to, walk away with this fight, easy fight. Not at all. It was 1-1 going into that final 3rd round. And, anybody could have won that fight at that point in time. And so got to give Ige his props. But, man, for me, when it comes to Dan Ige, I know, but what I'm saying is if he's going to get in a pure point striking fight, he's going to lose. And, and whenever I hear Dan Ige talk, and again, I like Dan Ige. He's also another Hawaiian guy, with Max Holloway, super good guy. Was listening to him on a couple of podcasts. He always talks about setting up the big shot. So like for me, like that is not the best thing to hear. Quite frankly, I mean, if that's what he's relying on, that's his bread and butter, maybe he does catch him here and he walks out a victor, and and I won't be mad at that. But just for the sake of the podcast, who I think is going to win, I'll go with the Englishman.
So you think Lerone will just be too safe, point fight, and not give up the big shot?
I think he might even land the bigger shot, honestly, because and watching, he had Barboza in trouble in a couple of those exchanges. He showed that he is a pretty lethal striker, and I think he might be able. I don't know if he'll put out Dan Ige, but I think he can hurt him for sure. And
I think this fight has potential to be a banger fight as well.
Yeah, it can be for sure, because Dan Ige, he's not going to walk away and start fighting from distance. He's going to get into the pocket, so it'll be exciting.
All right, this is one we're going to probably have to hold our breath for a little bit, boys, because we know the pull-out merchants are on the table. But if it does happen, it's going to be a fun one. Robert Whitaker, the Reaper, Bobby Knuckles versus Hamshat Boris Chimaev, 33 versus 30, 6 foot versus 6'2", 73.5-inch reach to 75-inch reach, 26-7 versus an undisputed 13-0 record. Let's get into Robert Whitaker's last 5. As you can see, he only loses to the top dogs as Drake Duplessis and Israel Adesanya. He shut down the hype train of Ikram Aliskerov, beat Paulo Costa, which was a pretty tough fight. He took some hits in there, and he beat Vettori. What are we thinking about Robert Whitaker's last 5, Roland? Are you liking the form he's coming into enemy territory in Dubai? Do you like it?
Yeah, no, I honestly, I like his form a lot. I like his mindset. I like what I've been hearing from Robert Whitaker. I like the guy that we're going to get ready to talk about. I think he's a guy that's recovered from his last loss against DDP, the champion in that division right now.
Yep.
And he collected himself and he's dominated. I mean, Paulo Costa, I think he's another guy that we can argue what does a W against him really mean at this point in time. Although he did show that he almost put out Robert Whittaker in that fight there in the end.
He still got a punch on him,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah, so I'll give him that. But that was a masterclass from Robert Whittaker. He still has shown that he's the ilk of this division. So I love his form to answer your question. I like his
form. Right, let's look at some of Khamzat's form, and it's 5-0. Now, there was a little bit of some time taken off from the Gilbert Burns fight to the Holland fight to the Usman fight. You know his history with his medicals. We've seen him show up this week. He doesn't look as clean as he's looked in the past. Are we making anything of that, Ben? Are you liking what we've seen from him? Last fight was against a welterweight in Usman.
I saw a Twitter video, and maybe I'm putting too much into bullshit, but I mean, like, when the fighters go up there and they take those pictures.
Yeah, zero aura. I saw that.
Yeah, zero aura. Like, he just looks like a regular ass dude with a thicker, bigger beard, bro. I have a question. Is this a 5-round fight or a 3-round fight?
That's a good question. I want to say it's slated for.
It's a 5.
It's
5 times 5. It's 5-round fight.
Okay, that determines my pick, and I'm going to go with Whittaker in a 5-rounder. Just a little bit too much inactivity. I do think that something like, not necessarily ring rust, but the cardio on this guy we've seen. I don't know if that Usman fight was a 5-rounder. I think that was a 3-rounder.
3-rounder.
This is his first 5-rounder. I don't see him finishing Robert Whittaker. Possibly, maybe he takes his back and ends up just strangling him. That would be his path. But I think that he gets tested in championship rounds. Love the fact that they made this a 5-round fight. Not for the title, but definitely whoever wins this fight has next against DDP, I would say.
Yeah,
so agree. I like it. I'm going Whittaker. Roland alluded to liking the dogs in the later fights. I'm with him. I'm liking a lot of dogs on this fight, bro.
It's a dog card, Roland.
To make my pick official for this one, I'm going to agree with Ben. I like Whittaker in this fight. I like his fight IQ. I like that it's a 5-round fight. I mean, he admitted in the DDP fight his biggest mistake was overlooking his opponent a little bit, not really taking him as serious as he should have, ended up getting put out in that fight. Don't think he's going to make that mistake against Khamzat, who, I mean, we want to talk about a zero aura, but for all intents and purposes, he has been the quote unquote boogeyman of the division for a little while, just with what's the word I'm looking for? Not aura, but anyways, there's like a mystique around him, right? The mysteriousness.
People don't want to sign up to fight.
Yeah, exactly. So he has that mystique about him. But I don't think that's going to deter Robert Whittaker. I think he's a guy that's on a mission. Again, like I talked about with Ankalaev, and he's going to pull it out as a plus 200 dog here.
Yeah, I'm cheering for Bobby Knuckles in the situation, but I am fearful of those first 2 rounds where Khamzat is, a bull, because he doesn't he's not like what's his name? The guy that's fighting Bilal. They're similar in styles, but the difference is this guy's like a bull. He doesn't stop. Like when the coach is telling him, hey, you need to wrestle against Burns, and he's like, no, I want to stand up. He's a little stubborn in that situation, and I think that's what could hurt him, because I honestly think that Whittaker's stand-up is going to be a little sharper. Those head kicks come and you never see them. I think 1 or 2 will catch him. I think in the later rounds is where Whittaker does most of his work. He's going to have to steal one of the rounds from 1 through 3, but 4 and 5 have Whittaker's name pretty much written all over it if we've seen his cardio. When you saw him against Usman even said, if I had the 5-round fight, that's mine. The last 2 were mine. He saw him fading. I think we're going to see much of the same with the situation of his health and all that has occurred throughout the years. So I think Whittaker just has to get 1 through 3, 1 round. 4 and 5 will be his, and I think he can get this decision.
It's a pretty rowdy number. I mean, the Usman fight, yeah, he won, but it wasn't like domination, and a lot
not
of
at all
will already consider Usman kind of, over the hill, or his title run.
His knees are washed, bro, and he was in that fight.
Exactly. Like Bobby Knuckles legit is on a quest back to the belt. It is, Duplessis and not Adesanya, so he does have a shot at running it back. But yeah, I like him here, man. I don't think that he's warranted those odds against somebody like Robert Whittaker that's, career top 3. in the UFC.
Let's
So
load it up.
Let's get to it. I know what Roland's ready to watch. I know what he wants to see, and that's the main event, the featherweight title. Only one title on the line. The BMF title is not on the line here. It's for the 145, and we got Ilia Topuria versus Max Blessed Holloway. Let's get into the tell of the tape, boys. 32 years old for Max Holloway. We've seen him for years. You would think he's older, but he's only 32. Ilia, not even hitting his prime at 27 years old. He's going to be the shorter guy in the fight, 5'7" to 5'11", 69-inch reach for both guys.
Nice.
26-7 record for Max, 15-0 for Ilia. The Matador, minus 230 favorite over Blessed. Max Holloway, plus 190. Roland, I'm going to kick it to you first. I loaded up Max's last five. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Let's hear it.
Well, first, I do want to express that I was a little surprised at the line being that steep. I did expect Topuria to open up as a favorite, but I did think it was going to be closer to like a minus 150, minus 165 type favorite. Did not think he was going to be as steep as he is now. But I will say about the last five of Max Bless Holloway, I like it. And, you know, there's the one loss there against Volkanovski, which capped off their trilogy, which he lost all three fights. But I will say he's rebounded nicely. He took out a hot prospect in Arnold Allen, knocked out the Korean Zombie, sent him to retirement, and then loaded up at 155. And the fight of that occurred this year, right? It's been such a long time. UFC 300. Yeah. Still the knockout of the year, last 10 seconds.
Shadow realmed him.
We all know the story. Knocked out Justin Gaethje. I love his last five, you know, including that fight against Yair, which ended up being a pretty good fight for all intents and purposes. So I like the last five. I'm excited about this fight. I'll give my pick here in a little bit after I hear what Ben has to say.
Ben, let's look at Max's last five, then I'll give you Ilia's next. You want to look at these real quick?
Yeah, I mean, he's got obviously that win against Gaethje where I was 100% on the wrong side of that.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
But that was, and I just thought that he was going to get bullied. You know, up at 155, we had only seen him against Dustin Poirier, and it didn't go well. This one was a lot more calculated, although I don't think Max Holloway is the most calculated guy like Ilia Topuria, which I'm going to get into. He did a very calculated, you know, jump up to 155. But now, after all of that, here he finds himself going back down to 145 for the title fight, right? Against a guy that just TKO'd Max Holloway's boogeyman, Volkanovski. So I think that, you know, I'm a big proponent on there's levels. And although Max Holloway is a veteran, bro, there is levels and the IQ. I mean, you love John Jones, you love Usman. You love those guys that have that IQ. You want to back them. I think Ilia Topuria's IQ is just at the top of the game right now. I think he's very calculated in everything he does. I mean, you look at the strength of schedule. Although Max Holloway isn't on there, we know that he took the belt from Volk. You know, Josh Emmett is a heavy hitter in that division. Went to decision with him, so really went through it with Josh Emmett. Wins over Bryce Mitchell, Ryan Hall. Another guy that, you know, had some hype around him until he got his ass knocked out. But
that Ryan Hall's fight kind of set him up. That's where we started knowing his name.
Yeah. Ryan Hall was undefeated. We know Kenny Florian's in his corner. Doesn't get too many fights because of his style. But Ilia Topuria, he's like that leg lock guy. But Ilia Topuria just bullied him, even on the ground. TKO'd him while, you know, Ryan Hall was digging for legs. But I think Topuria is just very calculated, bro. He's telling – Even the way that he said, like, yeah, that Max Holloway win against Gaethje, it was awesome, and he was in the building, and for sure it's going to go down as one of the best knockouts in UFC history. But if you think about the skill level of that knockout, like, there was zero skill in it, and him bringing up
they were just banging. They were banging.
That angle, yeah, but even bringing up that angle, Roland, like, nobody's thinking, like, it's like, dude, obviously we're all the fans in it.
Yeah, for sure. I see what you're saying.
That's legendary. That's instant classic Hall of Fame. And he's like, bro, all they did was, you know, throw round punches and there was nothing to it. That's the type of championship calculated, you know, mindset that you just got to put yourself and find something. I love it. I think Max Holloway hasn't been knocked out. I think that Ilia Topuria is going to get him out of there.
Oof, shit. Look, Topuria, I can't really argue with a lot of what you said. You know, his last five, I mean, I could poke some holes in those victories. I mean, he was in a close fight with Herbert. I arguably needed that knockout to win the fight. Volkanovski, not going to take anything away from him, although we spent more than half of the buildup to that fight asking, is this too soon for Volkanovski to come back? He had just come back off of a knockout loss at 155 to Islam. Is he coming back too soon to fight Topuria? Is he coming back too soon? Is he coming back too soon? Ended up, getting knocked out after, arguably winning the first round in impressive fashion. My thing is, I don't think that let me backtrack and, talk a little bit more about Topuria. For Topuria to win this fight, to me, I don't think he's going to win in just a straight point striking fight that we usually see kind of Max, engage in, where, he's relying on volume. I think he's really a guy that needs to rely on controlling the spacing, controlling the octagon. A lot of, his knockouts and his big strikes has come when he's gotten to back a guy into like a corner. He got Volkanovski backed up against the cage where he had nowhere to go, and he ended up, clearing his lights. So, I mean, obviously I'm biased. I'm not going to go against Max here. It's not in my DNA. Do I, have worries here that Topuria can put him out? For sure. Topuria, he is the cleanest striker in this division. He is probably the most well-rounded fighter in this division. We haven't even spent time talking about how he got started in MMA, and that was in wrestling. I mean, that's his base, really. If you really want to talk about it, he has that sub victory on his last five. So, I mean, he can really take this fight anywhere you want. That's obviously the big worry. But at a plus 190, if this fight is truly going to stay standing, I'm not going to go against my boy Max. I'm going to take that plus 190 all day and just hope for the best here. I mean, for sure, fan take, but I mean, I just can't. I can't see Max getting put out here.
I see Max's path to victory just being like he's kind of like the Diaz. When the Diaz win standing up, they kind of overwhelm you.
Yeah, sticking
punches.
Yeah.
Right. But they also get hit a lot when they're throwing that many punches, and Topuria just throws, deadly shots.
And the one thing that does worry me about Max and his game plan, he needs to be in the pocket a little bit to strike and, get his flurries off on you. But I have noticed, and this even goes back to, against the Frankie Edgar fight, really, when Max senses pressure, or not pressure, but when he senses that there's a real knockout power there, that kind of, throws a little bit of a wrench in his game plan. Even to Volkanovski had real stiff power behind his jabs. Max was never really ever to get going. But I'm just saying that they get into just a pure, like they're striking and, maybe Topuria's not being as calculated and he's fighting a little bit more of Max's style. I can see Max piecing him up because Topuria, I mean, he is quick, he's sharp, but I mean, who do I expect to get more combinations off in an exchange? I'm going to go with Max. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm going to look like an idiot, but that's just kind of how I see this fight.
You think Max could be the faster guy Saturday night or Saturday afternoon?
I think so. I definitely. And I think over the course of 5 rounds, if he implements his pace early on, I don't see why not.
Remember, he was faster than Gaethje because he moved up to 155. He's going back down. Like Topuria has like cat-like reflexes. Max doesn't have that, bro.
Again, like I said, purely biased. I'm trying to convince myself here. So if you guys are, again, I'm gonna bet on Max. I like the plus 190. I really do. But I see everything that you're saying, Ben. I'm not discounting it. I'm just trying to convince myself Max's path to victory here.
I want to merge what the both of y'all said here. Ben, you talked about Topuria's IQ. Roland, you talked about Topuria's base really being wrestling. He's, that Georgian wrestling background. He hasn't used it as much. Now, because of his IQ, and we know what Max is, a stand-up fighter, any chance we see double leg takedown early, I mean, just shoot the takedown and get this to the ground, high IQ, I'm going to fight him on the ground. Any chance, Ben, we're going to see that? Or do you think Topuria is willing to test his own stand-up, that claim that I'm the best boxer in the UFC against Max Holloway?
I think 100%. If you're saying that that knockout against Gaethje took no skill, you definitely want to go up there and be a showman and take care of him standing up. You just knocked out Volkanovski. I mean, like Max Holloway is a puncher. I just don't see somebody you know, as young and as well rounded as Topuria losing to, I'm not, I don't want to be an asshole calling Max one dimensional, but I mean, like, he doesn't bring leg kicks in. He doesn't throw.
I mean,
high kicks.
how did he put Gaethje out of that fight? Arguably with a spinning back kick. I mean, he took him out.
True,
I mean,
that one forgot. Everyone forgets about that because of the punch.
I mean,
at the end of the fight,
how did he almost beat Volkanovski one of the times with a leg kick that caught him? I'm just saying he does have a little bit more in his arsenal than you're giving.
I mean,
him
bringing good points up, Roland.
Gaethje is a punching bag, though. I don't expect Topuria to be there in front of him, just there for him to hit. Like, Gaethje's just gonna walk you down, walk through the carnage just to get his. This is a complete different fight. Like, this is the IQ that we're talking about compared to Gaethje's, you know, barroom brawl.
No, I do expect Topuria to shoot if he gets to the 4th or 5th round. I think he tries to change it up. I think at that point, because it shouldn't get to the 4th and 5th round if you're the best boxer in the UFC, and I think that's where he shoots.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Justin. I do think we will see him shoot, and, you know, if Max is in a wild exchange, you know, take advantage there. I mean, we see that all the time with wrestlers. They'll take a striker that's whiffing and take that as an easy takedown, and he for sure has that in his game. We've seen that. So, I mean, if he's smart, I mean, he should spend some time on the ground with Max No Diddy, and, you know, just get him, you know, tired out, and you know, take the fight over from there. Honestly.
All right, just to confirm, Roland, you're on the dog here, plus 190.
Oh, yeah.
Ben, you are on Topuria, and anything else on this fight, over, under on something?
I don't know the exact over under on the rounds, but god damn, we just got spammed.
Who do you like, Justin?
I do like Topuria to get him out of there inside the distance.
Who do you like, Justin?
I've never gone against Max Holloway on this podcast, ever. I don't think I ever would. But today kind of edged me over to the side that I'm going to go with the best boxer in the UFC and say Ilia Topuria is going to win this fight. And that's because I was on a phone call with a friend yesterday talking about all the ways Max was going to win. I saw a video I didn't like today, and I just got to go with my dog now, Ilia Topuria, on this one.
Hey, I will say Topuria is surprisingly, like, he's been a good, you know, partner for Max to build up this fight. You know, I liked how they've been playing off of each other in their interviews. He's a funny guy. He has the bravado, and he hasn't shown it in, you know, his public interviews, but in the embedded, he does have, you know, the utmost respect for Max Holloway. So I'm excited to see this fight actually, you know, see the octagon, you know, close the gates and get this going.
Oh yeah, it's going to be sweet. All right, let's move over to the last little talk. Just a quick look at it. It's the main event of the prelims, and I think it's a pretty good fight. So I wanted to just give a quick pick. We don't have to go into it too much. I don't have no tell of the tape for you or anything. It's Jeff Hands of Steel Neal minus 305 versus Rafael Dos Anjos. Rolling real quick. What do you like in this fight?
Oh man, I'll make it real quick. I like RDA at those odds. I don't have his last 5 fights up in front of me, so I don't know when the last time he's fought, but I feel like it's been fairly recent. And he's out of Austin now, so I got to give RDA, Texas guy, by way of Brazil, his love here. So give me
his last
RDA.
fight was Matus Gamrot, where he lost in the decision. Before that, Vicente Luque lost and Fiziev lost. So he's needs
an
that
old
dub.
man, bro. I mean, isn't Jeff Neal still fighting up there with
he is
Dallas?
I think
Dallas with Saif Saud.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, this is just where Saif Saud, we've seen him in the corners kind of tell his guys, like, hey, yo, snap the fuck out of it. Like, he just has to be telling him all camp, like, you just got to maul this old man. Literally calling him an old man, because that's what he is. And I mean, you see Jeff Neal here with the 6-pack and all that shit. Like, if you don't go out there and bully this old man, bro, I mean, you know, it's time to.
Well, he needs wins too, guys, because he's on 2 losses as well.
But now look at the odds.
Yeah, but
you're on a 2-loss win streak and you're 3-1 against. It's an old man, bro.
Who did he fight last? Was it
Ian Machado Gary?
Gary. It was Gary, right? Yeah.
If this happened on the street, we'd be calling it literally a crime, because we'd be like, "Yo, why is this guy taking advantage?"
And that was a good fight too. I mean, against Gary, I think he almost won that fight.
And then he fought Shavkat, where Shavkat like choked him out, but that was a good fight up until the chokeout. Yeah. I just think the line is a little bit high. I would have liked to see Jeff Neal favored, but not at 305.
Jeff Neal inside the distance.
Yeah, it's a little steep, but I mean, how much really does RDA have left?
Bully deal, man. Bully deal, man. Hey boys, I mean it's a 3-point game over here with the Rockets. I got to get out of here. Fourth quarter.
All right. Well, that's actually it for us as well.
And what time does this start at, Justin? Again, for
so
the
the prelims will start if you're in Central Time, 9 a.m. So you're gonna wake up, you're gonna turn on College Game Day, and you're gonna get on your extra TV and put on UFC because the fights will be ready to go. The main card, I think, is 12 though. So you got time if you want to go to Costco, you want to do your weekend shopping, whatever you do on the weekends. You know what I mean? I'm a Costco guy, so
we're HEB. This is an HEB podcast, man.
Oh, okay.
Get a little Costco hot
dog. Let me get you the membership, and I think you'll change your mind a little bit.
We'll wait till I get us a HEB commercial, and I might change your mind.
We'll see. But anything else before we wrap it up, boys? Anything last moments, last words we want to hit?
No, just the best is blessed, and all aboard the Blessed Express.
All right,
let's get it done.
I'm pumped for Saturday now, dude. I mean, chingazos for breakfast is always great, and I mean the fact that the UFC card is during the day. The Rockets play the Spurs here in SA. I'm probably going to go to that game Saturday night after all.
Hey, and they're fighting local time over there, so I mean, there's going to be no worries about guys fighting at like 2 a.m. just to appease the the United States audience. Yeah, exactly. Dana's got to abide by the the Abu Dhabi people over there, the Habibis. So
there you go. All right, boys. Peace out.
Peace.